Over the years, we've witnessed many sporting comebacks, but none are quite as bizarre as the recent events that have unfolded in Blackburn. Yesterday, Blackburn Olympic, a football team that last played a match in 1889, reformed after twins Frederick and Sidney Yates, named after their great-grandfather and great-uncle respectively, received a phone call from the family solicitor on their joint 40th birthday. They were told their lifelong dream of owning a football club had come true. As you'd expect, being born on the 1st of April makes you suspicious of good things happening to you, especially on your birthday, so naturally they thought this was a wind-up. Like some ancient rite of passage, the will stated that the next pair of Yates siblings would inherit the previously defunct team, Blackburn Olympic, which was to be set back up using the sum of money put aside 131 years ago. The club are now actively seeking a manager for the next season and are welcoming applications via email for the vacancy. Now over to Sophie with the weather.
More news coming out of the Blackburn Olympic camp today, as the Honours have announced they were playing their games in the 2019-20 season. The club have been unable to come to an agreement with St Mary's College, that now resides where the Hollyth Stadium used to be located. Instead, work has begun on a new stadium that will be named the Big Hollyth Wall and will have a capacity of 3,000 spectators.
Atherton Laburnum Rovers have today been expelled from North West Counties Football League Division 1 North by the NWCFL committee after failing to be competitive during the 2018-2019 season. They had originally been reprieved from relegation despite finishing with 13 points and a goal difference of -106, but the NWCFL committee have now reneged. Today, Blackburn Olympic have been announced as the team to replace the now expelled Atherton Laburnum Rovers in the North West Counties Football League Division 1 North after the NWCFL committee voted unanimously to accept their application.
Time for a bit of an exclusive here for you on TalkSport then, regarding the future of Blackburn Olympic. In case you're not aware, they're the team that reformed back in April after lying dormant for 131 years. Well, today, they've announced their new manager for their re-debut season. Little-known manager Matthew Hall has been appointed after successfully applying via email.
As the season preparation ramps up, we've had a look through some of our favourite kits for next season. Have a look at these beauties that Blackburn Olympic have unveiled this morning.
On this week's Meet the Manager, we decided to focus on non-league, and this week we're speaking to Blackburn Olympic's new manager Matthew Hall about his preparations for the new season. You've been off the football radar for a while, with your more recent stints at other clubs ending abruptly. What makes you the right man for this job?
You'll find the answer to that question at the end of the season, won't you?
But what if you're sacked before then?
Piss off.
For the first time in an absolute age, welcome back to the channel, and welcome to my brand new Football Manager save with Blackburn Olympic. Before I introduce you to the history of Blackburn Olympic, pre-rejuvenation by yours truly, I just wanted to say that you can catch this save live every Monday, Wednesday and Friday from 11 PM onwards, and I will also be uploading some highlights to this YouTube channel so you can also see how the save progresses, and also for me, so I get to see how it progresses after it's been and gone. And that will be starting from tonight. The date of this uploaded video, which is the 29th of May 2020. But without further ado, I'll introduce you now to the FIFO guys, because reasons, who will tell you about the history of Blackburn Olympic during the 19th century. In this video, that is not sponsored by The Athletic, we decided to look back at Blackburn Olympic's brief period of existence at the end of the 19th century, following their recent resurrection. Blackburn Olympic was founded in February 1878, when two of the many existing clubs in Blackburn, Black Star and James Street, opted to merge. The name was chosen by James Edmondson, the club's first treasurer, with the recent excavation of the ancient site of the Olympic Games, Olympia, being the inspiration. Originally, they played their games at the Hollyth Stadium, which was named after the pub over the road from the ground. Despite football being a strictly amateur game at the time, many players were paid a wage. The club's increasing expenses were met with the help of Sidney Yates, a local iron foundry worker, who invested a large amount of money and continued to bankroll the club for most of its existence. Actions that were eerily echoed by Walker Steel owner Jack Walker during his time at Olympic's fierce rivals Blackburn Rovers in the late 20th century, funding them to a Premier League title in 1995. In 1880, Olympic entered the FA Cup for the first time, getting knocked out in the first round by Sheffield. The same fate befell them in the 1881 competition, this time losing to Darwin. They would fare much better the following year. On the way to the 1883 FA Cup final, Olympic defeated 4 other Lancashire clubs: Accrington, Lower Darwen, Darwen Ramblers, Church and Welsh team Druids. They faced Old Carthusians in the semi-final and were the first team they had faced from the south of England. They beat Old Etonians 2-1 after extra time at the Kennington Oval to win the 1883 FA Cup, the first working class club to win the competition, and equally as important, they were the first team to do so by using a revolutionary tactic called passing. Whilst Olympic were not the first side to use deliberate passing instead of kick and rush as the primary method of ball movement, they were the first in England to see success using it as a tactic. In the wake of Olympic's high-profile victory, journalists and officials affiliated with southern amateur clubs intensified their calls for the FA to investigate the finances of northern clubs, who had been widely suspected of making illicit payments to players since at least 1876, despite being prohibited from doing so. Questions were asked about players who had relocated from one town to another, seemingly for the sole purpose of playing for a new football team. No action was taken against Olympic, but punishments were imposed on other clubs, including Preston North End, who were expelled from the FA Cup. Olympic again reached the semi-finals of the FA Cup in 1884, but failed to defeat Queen's Park to line up an all-Blackburn final against bitter rivals Rovers. The club was never again able to achieve this level of success, losing again to Rovers the following season in the second round, who would become eventual winners for the second consecutive year. After the FA agreed to legalise professionalism in 1885, Olympic found it hard to compete for spectators and sponsors with the longer established and more successful Rovers. In 1886, the club was forced to reduce the players' wages to a quarter of what was being offered by wealthier clubs, with many of the team's key players walking out. The Football League was formed in 1888, but a rule stating that only one club from each town or city could join meant that Rovers were chosen over Olympic to be Blackburn's entrant. Beset by heavy debts, Olympic announced in early 1889 that all professional players were being released from their contracts with immediate effect and, ironically, would now only employ amateur players. This came too late to save the club, which closed down in September 1889.
So you now know the history of Blackburn Olympic, you know the narrative of how they've been reformed. So let me give you a bit more information about how I've put them back into Football Manager, and also a quick overview of the team themselves. Okay, so let's start off with the database and how I then got Blackburn Olympic back into Football Manager. The database I've chosen as the donor for this project was found on the SI forums. It goes all the way down to tier/level 11, which is perfect for what I wanted, because I wanted to put Blackburn Olympic into tier 10, because that's the tier that hashtag started off in, and it seemed fair to me. So there are a couple of reasons why I picked this particular database. One, League One promotion does work after the first season. I've noticed, or at least some of the databases I did initially start using, it didn't quite work so well, and there would end up being discrepancies with 23 or 24 teams being in there interchangeably in some cases. And also, this database that I've chosen has the restructured Conference National North-South that's due to be implemented in 2021, I think. But as a result, all of the other leagues obviously are impacted with that, and how the regions are decided. Basically, this was the best database and that I found during my testing that allowed the correct promotion demotion, because the last thing I wanted was to start off in like a Northwest division and then all of a sudden get put in a Southern division when I go up a tier, if that ever happens. The next part was to basically make Blackburn Olympic unextinct. Unticked a box, and there they were. I'm not going to say it was quite as easy as that, because then I had to choose which team were going to be replaced in tier 10, which is where I was putting them in, and also find the sort of the correct division, because it's so regionalised. And obviously Northwest Counties League Division 1 North. Wait, I think it's NWCFL. Northwest Counties Football League Division 1 North is the division I've put them in, and Atherton Laburnum Rovers were the team that finished bottom and by a considerable margin in the 18-19 season, so they seemed fair game. They conceded minus 106 goals in the 18-19 season. Yes, that is a thing. Ridiculous. And yet they didn't get relegated IRL. So therefore, in this universe, damn right do they. Let's look at Olympic themselves in Football Manager then, and the information I've used. So a lot of this is purged from Wikipedia and a couple of books that I've found. But strangely enough, when the team only has an 11-year period of history from the late 19th century, there's not a huge amount going around. So unlike other clubs that have existed sort of since before then, they've carried on existing. 11-year period, that's all I've had to play with. So I've hopefully done justice to this, well, hopefully this entire saga or story that's hopefully going to unfold in front of all of our eyes. So I've nicknamed them the Light Blues. That is apparently their nickname from way back when they were I can't talk. I actually can't talk. There are some legends and icons at the club. They are all players that played for the club in the FA Cup final of 1883, which was the one that Blackburn Olympic won. Jack Hunter and James Ward are probably the most notable names. Jack Hunter was the captain, I believe, at the time. And James Ward was the only player to play for England whilst on Olympics books all the way back then. So both are well deserving of their legend status. Hopefully, yours truly might be in that list at some point. You never know. The stadium was one of the more awkward parts of weaving this story together because St Mary's College resides where their original stadium used to. So the pub actually the ground borrows its name from is still there. I don't know if it's still serving people, but the building is still there. Apparently the largest crowd that was ever registered at the original Holith Wall was 10,000. But to make it more realistic to the level that we're going to be playing at, and also sort of, I guess, similar to the maximum crowd Blackburn Olympic were getting in their POM all the way back in the 19th century, I've capped the capacity at 3,000 for now. But basically I've moved the stadium up the road because I've had to, and I've moved it into a golf course. It wasn't until I zoomed right into Google Maps that I realised I've put it into a golf course. But that's where we've decided. They've got planning permission, so it's happening, okay? Get on with it. And we've called it Big Holith Wall. So I guess, play on words, because original Holith Wall, we've now got a bigger Holith Wall, and also because it's on a golf course, holes in one. It's a shit pun. Get on with it. So I did say the stadium was one of the more awkward parts. I may have lied. The badge was equally as awkward, if not more so, because they didn't have one way back when. They did use the Lancashire FA crest, which features 3 lions. If I've remembered to put that on the screen, you'll be able to see it. So I used that and some of the sort of almost pre-Blackburn Olympic history to inspire some of the other choices. So I've taken the lion, which was featured on the Lancashire FA crest, and I've taken some of the Black Stars, which Black Star were one of the original clubs that amalgamated with James Street to form Blackburn Olympic. Sorry if I've already lost you, but you can hopefully see where the inspiration for the new crest has come from, albeit the stars are white, not black. With the kits, I enlisted the help of Request a Kit. His link will be in the description because his work is absolutely fantastic. He's been excellent throughout. He's provided me with the kits for this save, and I love them. He nailed the old school aesthetic that I was going for by picking Admiral as the manufacturer of the kits. We've gone sponsorless because ultimately we probably would do in the first season. We've literally just formed like 3 months ago in-game canon. So we haven't had a chance to put anything like that together yet. And I like clean kits. Who doesn't like clean kits? So I tried to interweave the club's history into the new age as well, so that there is always calls back to the past, because I could have just made things up, but I haven't. So they are known as the Light Blues, so I've stuck with light blue for the kit, but I didn't really want to pick sky blue because, well, Coventry and also City play in fairly similar colours, so we've gone for sort of an in-between sky and royal blue, which seems to fit. Ultimately, a lot of the photos are black and white, so don't even have those to refer to other than light blue. I've interpreted that as light blue. I think that's fair. The away kit is slightly different. Apparently they did play in a change strip of like a darker blue after they'd switched to the light blue strips, but originally they played in magenta. That was the colour they started out at. And to prevent kit clashes like in the 21st century, I thought having a magenta away kit would be less likely to clash with anything. So gone with magenta for the away kit. And then the dark blue has been reserved for the third strip, which I don't know which is my favourite out of all of these. I love them all, but I love a sash. Who doesn't love a sash? I mean, even Miss World, she loves a sash. So, rivalries. Blackburn Rovers and AFC Darwin. Both are very local and technically historical, but obviously everything is going to be historical when you're relating back to a club that last existed 131 years ago. I've named them the Blackburn Derby because both clubs are from Blackburn, and the Bolton Road Derby because that is the road, I believe, that separates Darwin and Blackburn. So made sense, really. That one technically didn't have a name. I just gave it one that I felt worked. And that's all I've got, really. We've got no players, we've got no staff, but we have got the foundations of what could be an absolutely fantastic save. And I'm looking forward to finally getting into it because this has been in the works for a month, maybe a month and a half. So I'm really hyped to actually get started playing this myself. So yeah, come join me on Twitch on the 29th of May 2020 from 11 PM, where we'll be starting this save in earnest. And if you're watching this in the future, then please continue to watch me on Twitch from 11 PM Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where I'll continue to play this save. It's going to be a long burner, a long-term save, because we've got a long way to go to even we'll probably get out of tier 10, let alone any further than that. There will be update videos on the save on YouTube, so if you don't have the chance to watch me live, then you can still find out what's going on right on this very channel. So if you do want to continue to watch my progress of this save, please click subscribe right now. And also, if you've enjoyed this video, especially the intro, please drop a like as well. That would be fantastic. Also, prediction time for the comment section. How many seasons is it going to take for me to get out of tier 10? Or, if you want to be negative, how quickly am I going to get sacked? And how much time have I wasted? Well, let's find out together, shall we? Anyway, until tonight, or whenever you see this, goodbye for now.